You are surrounded by mirrors, and you think you are looking at the world. Every morning, before you have spoken a single word to another human being, before you have sat in silence long enough to hear your own thoughts, you reach for a small glowing rectangle and let the world flood in. Opinions, images, outrage, admiration, performances of joy, performances of grief, all of it arriving simultaneously, all of it demanding your attention, all of it shaping, quietly and invisibly, the person you will be that day. You did not choose most of what you saw. An algorithm chose it for you. And yet it feels somehow like reality. This is precisely the moment Plato warned us about. Not with those words, not with that technology, but with something far more enduring than either, a question. How do you know that what you are seeing is true? And deeper still, how do you know that you, the one doing the seeing, have not already been shaped by shadows? In the most famous passage in all of Western philosophy, Plato described a cave. Inside it, prisoners are chained from birth, unable to turn their heads. Behind them burns a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, figures pass carrying objects, statues, shapes, silhouettes. The prisoners see only shadows cast upon the wall in front of them. They name the shadows. They develop preferences among them. They argue about which shadow is most beautiful, most important, most true. And they mistake this entirely, completely, with profound confidence, for the whole of reality. Plato was not writing about the ancient world. He was writing about every world in which human beings have ever lived. He was writing, with uncomfortable precision, about ours. Think for a moment about the architecture of social media. Not what people do on it, but what it was designed to do. It was designed to hold your attention. It was designed to provoke reaction. It was engineered with extraordinary intelligence to ensure that you keep watching, keep scrolling, keep responding. And in doing so, it learned something crucial about human nature that Plato understood long before it did. We are not primarily rational creatures. We are creatures of appetite and emotion and image. We respond to beauty before argument, to spectacle before substance, to the tribe before the truth. Here is the uncomfortable reversal. The platform is not the problem. You are not a passive victim of technology. The deeper issue, the one Plato would press you to confront, is that the cave is comfortable. The shadows are familiar. And the prisoners, given the chance to leave, often choose to stay. Because leaving the cave means walking into light you are not prepared for. It means discovering that what you believed was real was a reflection of a distortion. It means sitting with the terrible, liberating silence of not knowing, and then, slowly, beginning to know something true. The philosopher in Plato's account is the one who turns around, not the one who is born wiser or luckier or free from distraction. Simply the one who turns around, who endures the pain of the light, and who returns, not to escape the cave permanently, but to bring others toward the exit. What does it take to turn around in a world engineered to keep you facing the wall? It begins with a recognition that most of what you are consuming is not nourishment, it is noise. Not malicious noise, not deliberately harmful noise nonetheless. The endlessly scrolling feed is not a conversation, it is not inquiry. It is not even, in most cases, connection. It is stimulation. And stimulation, Plato would remind you, is the lowest form of intellectual life. Not because pleasure is wrong, but because stimulation without reflection produces people who are very busy feeling things and very rarely thinking them through. He had a word for this. He called it mimesis, imitation. The tendency of human beings to copy what they see, to absorb the postures and passions and values of whatever surrounds them, without ever asking whether those values are worth holding. Social media is a mimetic engine of extraordinary power. It does not tell you what to think. It shows you what to want, what to fear, what to envy, what to celebrate. And it does so through the most ancient and irresistible mechanism in human psychology, the desire to belong. You are not scrolling for information. You are largely scrolling to locate yourself, to find out where you stand, who your people are, what the tribe believes this week. And the tribe, shifting and volatile as it is, will tell you. It will tell you with enormous confidence and zero wisdom. And here is where Plato's challenge becomes not merely intellectual, but deeply personal. Because the question he would ask you, the question he asks every generation, in every era, is not, what does the crowd think? The question is, what do you think? Not after you have been told what to think. Not after the algorithm has curated your perspective for 17 minutes. What do you actually, genuinely, in the silence of your own mind, believe to be true and good and worth living for? If you cannot answer that question without reaching for your phone, you are still in the cave. If this kind of thinking reaches somewhere real for you, that quiet place where philosophy stops being abstract and starts feeling necessary, consider subscribing and leave a comment with one question you are sitting with right now. Not an answer, just a question. The examined life begins there. There is a dimension of Plato's thought that rarely makes it into philosophy courses because it is too uncomfortable for classrooms and too simple for academic papers. It is this: the soul has an order, and when that order is disturbed, nothing external can restore it. He believed, with the full force of his intelligence and his grief, having watched the city of Athens execute the wisest man he ever knew, that what we call unhappiness is almost always a form of disorder. Not bad luck, not the wrong circumstances. Disorder, the appetites running ahead of reason, the emotions mistaken for convictions, the image of oneself mistaken for the self. Now consider what social media does to the inner order of a person. Consider what it means to perform your life publicly. Not occasionally, not in moments of genuine celebration or genuine grief, but continuously, as a practice, as an identity. You begin to curate. You begin to shape the image. And the image, fed by attention and starved by neglect, grows hungrier than the person who made it. Eventually, you are not presenting yourself to the world. You are serving the image. The image is living your life. Plato called the part of the soul that craves recognition, status, and the admiration of others the thumos, the spirited part, the part that wants to be seen as great. It is not evil. In its proper place, it drives courage and dignity and ambition. But when it breaks free of reason, when it stops asking what is truly worth admiring and begins simply to hunger for admiration itself, it becomes a tyrant. And a person ruled by this hunger, Plato argued with quiet precision, is not free. They are the most imprisoned of all, not by chains, but by approval. Here is the modern translation of that ancient insight. The person with 10,000 followers who cannot spend an hour alone in silence is not powerful. They are frightened, and the fear is not of the silence. The fear is of what the silence might reveal, that the self beneath the performance is uncertain, unfinished, struggling, and deeply, thoroughly human. Plato would not be scandalized by this. He would be tender about it, because he knew. It is written in every line of the dialogues that the examined life begins not in triumph but in aporia, in perplexity, in the honest admission that you do not know what you thought you knew, that the ground beneath your certainties less solid than it appeared. And rather than seeing this as failure, he saw it as the beginning of philosophy. He saw it as the first movement of the soul toward truth. The Socratic method, the kind of questioning that Plato preserved and celebrated, was not designed to make people feel ignorant. It was designed to make them honest, to create, through careful and relentless questioning, a space in which a person could stop performing knowledge and begin actually seeking it. What would it mean to bring that quality of attention to your relationship with the digital world? Not to renounce it, not to perform a grand, photogenic gesture of disconnection, but to ask, genuinely and without theater, what does this give me, and what does it cost? What does it cost in attention, in solitude, in the capacity to sit with a thought long enough for it to become wisdom rather than merely content? What does it cost in the ability to tolerate disagreement without the immediate, reflexive urge to broadcast your response? What does it cost in the slow, invisible erosion of your own original voice? The voice that existed before you learned what kind of posts perform well and what kind disappear into silence. These are not rhetorical questions. They are the beginning of the examined life. And the examined life, Plato insisted with a force that still carries across 24 centuries, is the only one worth living. Not because unexamined lives are worthless, but because they are unfinished. They are lives lived in reaction rather than intention. Lives oriented by the shadows on the wall rather than by the light that makes all seeing possible. The light, in Plato's cosmology, was the good. Not goodness as a moral rule, not goodness as social approval or cultural consensus. The good as the ultimate source of reality, the principle that makes truth true and beauty beautiful and justice just. It cannot be found in a feed. It cannot be liked or shared or algorithmically amplified. It can only be approached through sustained, courageous, honest thought, through the willingness to turn around in the cave, to be disoriented, to lose the comfort of the familiar shadows, and to walk, stumbling, toward something you cannot yet fully see. This is what Plato would say to you, not with condemnation, not with nostalgia for a simpler age. He would say it the way Socrates said everything, as a question, as an invitation, as a gentle and implacable challenge to the part of you that already knows the difference between noise and meaning, between performance and presence, between the image and the soul. He would ask, what kind of person are you becoming? Not what are you posting? Not how many people are watching. What kind of person, in the privacy of your own thought, in the texture of your daily attention, in the choices you make about what deserves your mind and your time, are you slowly, quietly, irreversibly becoming? Because that is the real question. Not about social media, not about algorithms or attention economies or digital culture. About you. About the ancient, unchanged, utterly particular human being reading these words, with your specific fears and specific longings and specific hunger for something that is not quite captured by anything you have found so far. Plato believed you were capable of turning toward the light. Not because you are exceptional, but because you are human. And to be human, in his deepest understanding, was to carry within you an orientation toward truth that no cave, however well designed, could entirely extinguish. The question is not whether you can find your way out. The question is whether you are willing to find it. Turn around.